Hey guys, so I know I haven't posted in a couple weeks. It's late at night, so I'm just sitting in the living room. I decided to not go upstairs into the room that I recorded before, just because I've spent a lot of time rearranging the house, which kind of led me, I guess, to recording tonight. Um, I guess, so I had a relationship where somebody lived with me on and off for the past 5 years. And so I've stayed in the place that we were at, and I think, memories get stuck in places. If I lived, like I've stated before, I've lived so many different places, and so to me it was always the next place and the next place. And when I moved here, we had to make a couple moves, but I said I didn't want to move for a while because I was just really tired of packing and unpacking. And every place I lived, it was, put up curtains, unpack everything, fix everything that needs fixed, hang all the pictures on the walls, and then time to move again. And so I didn't want to move, and I ended up staying here, and he left several times. And I guess with it being also holidays, I think a lot of us, holidays are hard, and they bring up, maybe not so good memories. If, some holidays in the past were not good, like my ex husband was in the military, so he was gone a lot. So even though the holidays were good for the kids, for me, it was always you're by yourself. You're by yourself, and so I guess some of the same circumstances, bring up the same feelings. So I've kind of, I don't know, went into hermit mode and decided, well, I'll rearrange everything. I'll move pictures around. I'll create new pictures. I'll, make it my place instead of this place full of memories of me and somebody else. So I was laying in bed, and I don't know, maybe it's the finally having everything moved around, then my emotions kind of let go. And so I was getting a bit emotional and sad and mad and all of the negative feelings that you can imagine on top of the holidays. And it, I don't know, something told me maybe record something, because who are you going to talk to at like 3 o'clock in the morning but yourself if you're by yourself? So I think for me, I have to vocalize things a lot. I've always said, like, I have that aphantasia where you can't picture things in your mind. So, like, when they say close your eyes and imagine an apple, imagine, a horse, like, I don't see anything. It's all just black. And I don't know if that has something to do with, not of having to vocalize everything. But anyway, so it brought me up to rejection, feelings of rejection, and how you deal with rejection from other people, from society, from, relationships, friendships, whatever. And, how you deal with those feelings. And I guess for me, a lot of times it's vocalizing things, rationalizing things. Um, I don't know. Anyway, for other people out there that feel rejected right now, I guess that's part of, I was just gonna make videos and kind of share my journey of what I'm doing, how I've helped myself. I guess the last year I had really noticed work had been extremely hard. I worked with the homeless, and the stories that you hear from people about stuff they've endured, and then you see what they're enduring, just does something to you. It changes you. If you, I can remember a therapist telling me years ago, like, go volunteer, you know, um, and I would think, volunteer, like, I don't have time to do that. I can't volunteer anywhere. I'm a single parent and I've got to go to work and I've got to take care of my children and everything else. But there was something about stepping outside of it that my job wasn't a volunteer job, but I said I wanted something like that because I had been in positions where I asked for help and there was none, where I had asked family and um, they wouldn't help, or if they did help, then it was kind of like, this is the last time I'm going to help you with anything, like, you should learn your lesson. So I stopped asking for help. I always thought me asking for help was a burden or something, which I think made me very tough in relationships because I didn't know how to ask for help until it was dire. And then usually the person that I was with got so used to me not asking for help that they just assumed, you know, you should deal with it yourself, or you can deal with it yourself. So I've just been dealing with a lot of things. The first thing that I did is I started taking care of myself, like, physically. I started eating better. I started looking into, like, herbal supplements, holistic medicine, you know, um, things to heal my body. I would come home from work and take a salt bath every single night just because it was painful for me to hear things from people. Like, my empathy was in overdrive, and I would feel guilty about having a place to sleep when they didn't. I would feel guilty about having food when they didn't. You know, um, and the relationship that I was in was not healthy for a long time. And so I had to learn how to take care of myself. And then I just dived deep into a lot of introspection about me, about how do I react to things, how do things affect me, how do I affect people, how do people affect me. But I think a lingering thing that happens a lot of times is rejection. Um, I know I have a fear of rejection, somewhere in me, because when you're actively being rejected by people that you love, when you have told people that you love them and they can call you and they can be in your life and they choose not to be, you know, um, you feel rejected. Whether or not that's correct, I can look at relationships and say, this is my part of it and this is their part of it. And I can look at people and say, well, they're dealing with their own stuff, and so this has nothing to do with me because they're avoidant. Or something like that. But it doesn't take away that sting that you feel, especially, I guess, in moments of need and loneliness. And I don't know, I try to put myself in the holiday spirit. But, sometimes, like, I go out and I put my decorations in the yard. I have Star Wars decorations because I'm a sci-fi geek. And I plug them in every night and I unplug them and I put up my tree. And sorry, I'm probably going to get a little emotional. Like I said, it's the holidays, I guess. But sometimes, sometimes the holidays aren't happy for people. Sometimes they're very lonely and depressing. And then it makes me think about all the people that I used to help and how they feel during the holidays. And it always brings me back to that, like, homeless feeling of, I guess, sometimes, like, what I'm feeling right now, like, this is what I felt like at home a lot. Even when I was married, because he was gone a lot of holidays. So it was me for me, and I may come across very confident to people a lot of times because I am pretty confident in the things that I do. I'm pretty confident in my intelligence and capabilities of things, but when there are things outside of your control, a lot of times, like the fact that people just don't want to have anything to do with you, even though they know that you love them. They know. I don't know. So I've been working on that a lot. And like I said, it hits me sometimes, like tonight, just because a lot of times I would keep myself busy. And from previous videos that I made, it was, because that was kind of how I was taught, is there's always something to do. There's always some chore, there's something, but I kind of, went through all of my things and kept some stuff, got rid of some stuff, moved things around so visually it's different. But I guess it brings up negative nostalgia sometimes. That this is the umpteenth Christmas time that I've spent by myself. And some of those times, like, people were around me, but they weren't talking to me. I got a silent treatment a lot. But I keep working every day on accepting myself. Thinking, well, I'm just not that person's cup of tea. Like, I've spent really years trying to figure out if people love me or not, if people even like me or not. And it's not, the general person on the street that you meet. It's like the people that I truly cared about, like truly loved. But I guess this journey of, healing and letting go is making me stronger. But I have to keep reminding myself that it's okay sometimes to be weak. It's okay to cry. Like I think I have an issue with crying. Like I've said before, like I don't like crying in public. I don't like people seeing me cry. Just because I got chastised a lot for crying growing up. But even when I'm by myself, it's like I get upset at myself for crying when that's part of the healing. The acceptance of just letting go of things and trusting that, it was all for a reason. I've learned a lot in the past year from different interactions with people, from relationships that I thought I had, from relationships that I used to have. And I think this sitting still with myself has really healed like part of my abandonment wounds. I think that's that fear of rejection and abandonment go hand in hand. And I guess for me, I didn't realize how dependent I was, for somebody to love me, for me to have somebody. Everybody wants somebody. I had moments in my life where I didn't have a somebody. But even in friendships, I always had somebody. I usually had guy friends. Just because, like I stated in previous videos, I always thought like I'm one of the guys. Like I kind of think like a guy. I grew up around guys. I'm not very feminine to the outside world just because I was raised to be a tough cookie, and then from circumstances I had in my life, it made me pretty tough. Sometimes too tough. Because I can be that girl. But I always had like guy friends until they got girlfriends or wives. And then the friendship kind of dissolved. And I miss those friendships. I miss having somebody to talk to. I think we all, want somebody just to talk to about things, about stuff. But I mean, I talk to the cats, but they don't really talk back. They kind of hiss and meow when they want. Anytime I open up a bag or a can of food that they think is theirs. But I don't know. I guess it's just with the holidays, I thought, I thought, well, I guess this is what people do now. They YouTube it or whatever. Like, I'm not at the point, I'm not going to create like an AI friend. Like, I've used the little AI tool in this time off that I've had. I had a friend the other day call it a sabbatical, and I guess that's a good term for it. Um, a sabbatical at my own home. Um, I think I'm at that point. If I didn't have my cats, I'd be like out the door, traveling the world, and I've looked into, possibly next year, maybe going overseas. I've looked into like how much it would cost to like ship the cats and what the rules are and all that, and it can be done. So who knows? But I'm also trying not to do the runaway thing, to the next place. Maybe the next place will be better. You know, maybe happiness is at the next place when, we can create it wherever we are. I think sometimes it's just hard when things come up, like holidays, like places that you've lived with somebody and they're no longer there, because then it's just memories that you're left with. And there's an artist that I listened to recently, and one of the lines was about like something like remembering things you wish you could forget. Sometimes I feel like that. Sometimes I feel like I wish there was a way that I could like delete, and it's not the bad memories. I think for me personally, a lot of times I forget the bad memories until they happen again. It's the good memories. It's the it's the bittersweet memories. Like, remembering when my children were little, wishing that, you know, I had that bond like I had then with them. It's, even just sitting on the couch, remembering talks that me and the other person had. Just simple little things, but anyway, um, so I've been dealing with rejection, not necessarily the fear of rejection, because I know people will reject me. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I know a lot of times I'm not, because I'm very outspoken. I like to talk. I like to talk about things, talk about all aspects, all sides of it. Think outside the box, problem solving, like anything you can imagine. So now I just did it again where I looked over at the Christmas tree because one of the cats was over near it, and I forgot what I was saying. I do that a lot. But maybe it's just because it's late too. Like I said, I just laid in bed for hours, and it takes me a long time to go to sleep. And I don't know if that's just because so many days I spend by myself not talking. So I thought maybe I should pick up making videos again, because even though I'm talking to myself, I know somebody out there probably would hear it and maybe relate to some of it, just like some of the videos that I watch. People will say stuff and I'll be like, yes, absolutely, I feel that way too. Or, a lot of times, like my Facebook feed, even I'll just put up other people's sayings and poetry and stuff, or songs, because I'm like, yes, exactly what that person said. But it's the result of the rejection, I think. It's that, when it first happens, you expect, like, yeah, people probably won't like me. But then as time goes by and you realize, like, they really don't. Like, that person, that you thought would call is never going to call. I called my mother months ago after her not speaking to me for years, and told her she could call me, said I love you and all that. And I've kept the same phone number. I've had the same phone number for years. But I think, she's busy with her life. So it's the feeling, really feeling like people don't care. When I think, like, I'm the one who always calls people. I'm the one who always would travel to people. I'm the one who would always write to people. I'm the one who gave people gifts that were so specific to something that they said, that whenever I gave them something, it was like, yes, that's what you told me 6 months ago, and look, I found it. Or I paid attention to the things about you, to let you know that I see you and I remember you. And I think that's what it is thinking, like, do people erase you? Is that what happens? Like, do people really forget? Do they just erase other people when they reject them? Because I know for me, I try not to do that. That there's certain people in my life that I have completely cut ties with, because they proved to me that they were not good for me. But there are also people that I know that I love them and still choose to never stay in touch. And I guess that just makes me wonder, like, is that the way the world's becoming? Like, do people just shuffle through people, and forget, as if, like I've said in a previous video, maybe even a couple of them, like, sometimes my memory with things is not great because I moved so much in my life that I had to memorize this address and this address and this city and this phone number and this, that, it takes me a while to remember. But I wonder, like, when people decide that they're done with you, do they just erase you? Or is it active? Is it like an active rejection time after time? Do you cross people's minds and then they say, no, I don't want to talk to that person or have anything to do with them? I don't know. Questions, I guess, at 3 a.m. So, anyway, like I stated before, I'm probably just gonna chart, some of my journey, and part of that right now, I guess, with the holidays is dealing with the feelings that come when like, you're rejected again. Here's another holiday again. And I don't know if it's self-pity, maybe. But I guess it helps recording yourself. I journal some, but I think the older that I've gotten, or maybe it's just the more I've learned to speak up, speak up for myself, that now I feel like I have to vocalize more. So I guess for all of you out there feeling the same, maybe chime in, or put a comment in there or something that you feel it too. Because I think a lot of us feel really alone, rejected, abandoned, isolated, when times like these come around, like holidays and things. And we need to hear that we're not. So anyway, till next time.